This is the Delta50, an in-stock 40% keyboard with a macro column, sold by Nixies. This board is made of anodized aluminum, a hefty brass weight, and also a mirror polished stainless steel weight screwed to it as well. The brass has some kind of matte coating on it, but I decided to try and give it a mirror polish instead. The Delta is manufactured by Crytek's, the same manufacturer for the Molly 60. If you look at the front, there's a very subtle cherry lip, and the typing angle is 8 degrees with a 17.55mm front height. Looking at the inside, we can see this is a gasket mounted board using silicone gasket socks. Right next to the macro column is a slot for the diffuser because there are some LEDs on the PCB. The PCB is 1.2mm thick without flex cuts. It's also hot swap, but unfortunately there's really no alternative layout options at all, which is super confusing to see. You're stuck with a split right shift, split spacebar, and basically a split backspace as well. Also, while it's kind of to be expected when getting into 40% keyboards, you'll definitely need a keycap set with a 40s kit, which may or may not be built into some base kits. Here's the layout for the 40 specific keys you'll be needing, as well as the spacebar lengths which you may need to buy a spacebar kit for. At the very least, it's VIA compatible. You can find the JSON file in the Nixies Discord. With the kit you get case foam, plate foam, and PE foam. You also get both an aluminum plate and a polycarbonate plate. As someone who can never decide on a plate material and ends up buying multiple plates, it honestly helps justify the price a little bit more. Connecting the JST connector can be really hard, so here's the tip. The JST connector is really short and can be close to impossible to connect the PCB. Try unscrewing the weight from the bottom case, and then you can lift the bottom case up to give you more wire to work with. You can put a piece of paper between the weight and the case to prevent the case from scratching the stainless steel weight. Then you can connect the PCB, knock the paper away, and then carefully try to reassemble the weight in the bottom case. Sometimes the JST cable doesn't slot into its channel correctly, and that prevents the weight from being screwed together with the case. So try screwing the bottom two corners of the weights first, at least halfway so it holds, and poke the cable back into place so it allows the weight in the case to screw back together. I recommend getting taller bumpons for this case because the weight of the board is so heavy that it sinks into the desk mat, and I'll talk more about that later. For now, here's the sound test. I'll be building this with both the aluminum and PC plate with the BSUN BCPs, Gateron Cream Sodas, and the Nixies. The sound leans toward a deeper sound signature for its size, and that's because of the massive weight on the back. And I'm not really a 40s user, I've only owned a few budget 40 boards, but the sound is impressive to me. I've tried a few other 40s at meetups, but never really liked how they sounded. My impression of 40% keyboards is that they sound kinda thin or hollow due to being small, lightweight, and not having a lot of material for a sound to resonate with. The Delta doesn't give that vibe because it's so heavy for its size. It weighs more than my ARC 60, and it's nearly the same weight as my aluminum Tiger 80 TKL. Now while it does lean towards a deeper sound signature, it is partially because it sinks into the desk mat. The board is so heavy that the bump-ons sink into my desk mat, and the weight on the bottom is touching my desk mat, which will make the board sound deeper or muted usually. Despite that I like how it sounds, I'd prefer there at least be a small gap underneath for the sake of isolating the board and not hearing some external modifier like my desk or my desk mat. So I bought these bump-ons from Amazon, and you can probably find the same size ones elsewhere if you search them up. And they do a good job keeping my board isolated from my desk. The board doesn't sound as full or as deep as it did before, but it's still impressive sounding in my opinion. So is it worth the price? This board is $350 before shipping. Considering 40s are a niche and there isn't really much competition in terms of pricing, the price doesn't really surprise me. Especially when you consider the TMO, a very similar board which had a similar price during its group buy. I'm not super familiar with 40% keyboards, but as far as I can tell there aren't any direct comparisons that are in stock. Considering the nature of the hobby, a board that is in stock and not having to wait several months could be something you value in terms of pricing. It's a 40s layout that's easier to adapt to if you need your brackets, apostrophe, and question mark keys, which a lot of more traditional 40s layouts leave out. So that could be a really good thing for you if you just want a smaller board without losing those keys. The only thing I disliked were the build process, the very limited layout, and the case feet being too short, which in my opinion are all small things to complain about that are outweighed by the build quality and the sound. The anodization is pretty good, and I can't say there's anything negative about the overall build quality. Inline keys stocked 50 units for sale. At the time of this recording, there's about a little over 30 left after about a month. And there's no confirmation that this would come back. So if you're planning on buying it, don't wait too long. Anyways, that's all I have to say about it. Thanks for watching.
I like to be